Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to talk about something a little different, something a bit more personal. It's about how a tiny spark of curiosity can grow into a full-blown habit, and not always for the better. This is a story about my journey with a habit that started small but ended up taking over more of my life than I ever expected. It all began on a completely ordinary Tuesday afternoon. I was scrolling online, just killing time, when I stumbled upon something new. It wasn't anything dramatic, just a simple activity, a game, a forum, you know the type. My first thought was, that looks interesting. It was pure, simple curiosity. So, I clicked. I spent maybe 20 minutes exploring it, felt a little burst of novelty and satisfaction, and then closed the tab and went about my day. I didn't think much of it. The next day, a similar feeling of boredom crept in during a lull at work. My mind immediately went back to that little discovery from the day before. I'll just check it for a few minutes, I told myself. And I did. Those few minutes turned into 30. It was a pleasant escape, a quick and easy way to break up the monotony. This became a little ritual. A boring moment would strike, and my brain would serve up this easy solution on a silver platter. It felt harmless, a little reward for getting through a tough part of the day. As weeks turned into months, my reasons for turning to this habit began to change. It was no longer just about boredom. After a stressful meeting, my first instinct was to open that app. Feeling a bit lonely on a Friday night, I'd dive right in. It had become my go-to coping mechanism. It was the emotional equivalent of a comfy blanket, something I could wrap myself in to numb out the sharp edges of stress, anxiety, or sadness. The problem was, I was using this blanket more and more often. It was always there, always available, and it never asked for anything in return, or so I thought. The shift was so gradual, I barely noticed it at first. But then, the signs started to appear. I used to be an avid reader, but the books on my nightstand were gathering dust. My mind, so accustomed to the quick dopamine hits from my habit, found it hard to settle into the slow, deep focus required for a novel. My attention span felt shattered. I'd try to work on a project, something that used to excite me, but my brain would constantly nudge me. Hey, remember that other thing? It's way easier. Just 5 minutes. But it was never just 5 minutes. My motivation for other things started to wane. The goals I had set for myself, both personally and professionally, began to feel distant and overwhelming. Why struggle to learn a new skill or push through a difficult workout when there was an effortless source of comfort just a click away? The habit was creating a path of least resistance, and I was walking down it every single day. The short-term relief it offered was actively sabotaging my long-term aspirations. It was like choosing a candy bar over a nutritious meal every single time. Sure, it tastes good in the moment, but eventually your body starts to feel the effects. Then came the social impact. Friends would invite me out, and I'd find myself making excuses to stay home. I'm too tired, I'd say, or I have to get up early. But the truth was, I just wanted to be alone with my habit. It felt safer and more predictable than social interaction. I started to isolate myself, choosing the comfort of my routine over the potential joy and connection of being with people I cared about. My world began to shrink, and the habit that once felt like a friend was now acting like a gatekeeper, keeping me locked away from a full and vibrant life. The turning point wasn't a single dramatic event. It was more like a slow dawning, a collection of small, uncomfortable realizations. It was noticing the pile of unread books, was feeling a pang of regret after turning down yet another invitation. It was the frustration of not being able to focus on my own thoughts for more than a few minutes. I looked at the person I was becoming, less focused, less motivated, more isolated, and I didn't like what I saw. I realized that my coping mechanism had become a crutch, and that crutch was preventing me from walking on my own 2 feet. I had to admit to myself that I had become too reliant on this one thing to manage my emotions. Life is full of stress, boredom, and loneliness, These are unavoidable parts of the human experience. But by constantly running to this one habit, I was robbing myself of the chance to develop healthier, more resilient ways of coping. I wasn't learning how to sit with my discomfort, how to solve my problems, or how to reach out to others for genuine connection. So, I decided to make a change. It wasn't about quitting cold turkey. For me, that approach felt too extreme and likely to fail. Instead, it was about reclaiming control. It started with awareness. I began to notice my triggers. When did I feel the urge most strongly? Was it when I was stressed, bored, lonely? Just identifying these moments was a huge step. Instead of automatically reaching for the habit, I would pause and ask myself, what do I really need right now? If I was feeling stressed, maybe what I really needed was to take a 5-minute walk outside or do some deep breathing exercises. If I was bored, maybe I could pick up one of those dusty books for just 10 minutes or listen to a podcast. If I was feeling lonely, the hardest but most important step was to reach out to a friend, not to my phone. I started to build a toolkit of alternative coping strategies. It was difficult, and I wasn't perfect. There were days I slipped back into old patterns. But the key was to be kind to myself and just try again the next day. Slowly but surely, things began to change. My focus started to return. I finished a book for the first time in months, and the feeling of accomplishment was so much more satisfying than any temporary escape. I started saying yes to social invitations again, and I rediscovered the joy of laughing with friends. My motivation came back, not in a huge rush, but in a steady, reliable flow. I was no longer running from my feelings, but learning to navigate them. The habit isn't completely gone from my life, but its role has changed dramatically. It's no longer my master. It's just one of many tools, and a tool I use much less frequently and with much more intention. I've learned that true resilience doesn't come from finding the perfect escape. It comes from building a life that you don't feel the need to escape from. It comes from facing your feelings, connecting with others, and pursuing things that give you a genuine sense of purpose and fulfillment. My story isn't unique. Maybe it resonates with you. Maybe you have a habit, whether it's scrolling social media, gaming, shopping, or something else, that started as a small curiosity and now has a bigger hold on you than you'd like. If that's the case, know that you're not alone and you have the power to change that relationship. It starts with a little bit of honesty and a willingness to find new ways to navigate the ups and downs of life. If you are struggling and feel like a habit is controlling your life, please don't hesitate to talk to someone. A friend, a family member, or a mental health professional can provide support and guidance. There are resources available, and asking for help is a sign of incredible strength. Thank you so much for listening to my story today. I hope it provided some food for thought. What are your experiences with habits and coping mechanisms? I'd love to read your thoughts in the comments below. Let's continue the conversation. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more content. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Bye.